Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the CEO's Chair. I'm really excited for this episode because we have a very special guest with us. He is currently the Managing Director of Bridgestone India. He has been the Managing Director and CEO of Sandvik, a member of YPO, a member of CII Western Zonal Council, as well as an enthusiast and avid runner. Mr. Parag Satpute, welcome to the CEO's Chair.
Thank you very much, Siddharth. A pleasure to be here today.
Thank you, Parag. So Parag, before inviting you onto the show, we did a little survey where we asked founders of companies and we asked senior management as to which CEO would they like to see on the CEO's chair, and your name came right on top of that list.
I'm humbled to hear that.
How does it feel to be an inspiration to so many people, Parag?
Well, first of all, it's a surprise, I must say, because you don't realize that there are many people following you. True. The first time I got a sense of that was when I very recently moved over from Sandvik to Bridgestone, and I put a short message on LinkedIn, and the number of comments and good wishes I got was overwhelming. So I think it feels overwhelming, to answer your question. It also creates a kind of responsibility on your shoulders, right? Because there are people out there who are looking up to you, so you have to live up to their expectations.
Absolutely.
But it's motivating at the same time, I would say.
Great, and I think I think that is your humility speaking, and you wear the mantle with ease.
Thank
because whatever we do, there are always people watching, and it's always nice to know that people have our support and there's somebody looking up to us. Yeah. So Parag, it's been 25 years since you started your career with Grindwell Norton. It's hard to believe that they passed by in a flash.
It sounds like a big number, right? So
absolutely. Could you tell us a little bit about the early years, early part of your career?
Yeah, so the way I thought about my career when I started out, I'm an engineer. I studied to be an engineer, and of course everyone was going into hardcore production jobs, design jobs, or going for further studies.
Of course.
But during my engineering, I realized that what I enjoyed most was interacting with people.
Okay.
I realized that through working in a sandwich course where I worked in different parts of production. Well, that was great learning. I realized I enjoyed, the best part was interacting with people. Okay. And I figured out that probably the sales and marketing field was where I would get to live my, my hobby. And that's why I actively chose to join sales and marketing. And that was my first job with Grindwell Norton. And while it was a short stint, it was really a great experience because we started in a batch of about 30 people coming from all over India, from good colleges. And some of the friends I made during that time are still with me, and some of the things I learned there have really helped me in my career.
Absolutely. I think the formative years are so crucial. It really distinguishes people that are going to be just average, mediocre, and the ones that are actually going to be very successful.
You could say that. And I noticed a change in myself. You know, during my engineering, I don't think I was a top student. Yeah, in some years I just barely scraped through, getting 40s and 45s. But in the final year project was when I really thought I should get good. So yeah, step up, and I was able to do it. But coming into the work, so in this Grindwell environment, actually it was like an extended college. So we had a 6-month training where you were tested, you were trained, and it was a competition. So at the end of the 6 months, actually, I stood in the top 3, which even surprised me and definitely surprised some of my college friends.
That's impressive.
So the reflection I took from that is once you get into what you like,
of course,
or where you see you can make impact, then the best can come out in you. Probably the college was more, it was a more standard environment, right?
Where it's all about discovering yourself and finding yourself. Yeah. And I think, like you rightly said, about doing something that you enjoy, and once you find your passion, there's no holding you back. So you were with Grindwell for about 2 years, I think 2.5 years.
Just under,
and then you've been with Sandvik for since 1997.
Yes.
You started, of course, as I believe a project engineer, and then just till last year you were the CEO and the managing director of the company.
Yes. Yes.
At what point did you know that you wanted to become CEO? Was it a conscious decision?
Yeah, let me think. So when I joined Sandvik, it was typical in those times that you join a company in 2-3 years, you decide to move on because that's how the career developed faster. So that was my master plan.
Okay.
And when I graduated from college, I remember a couple of friends, we had talked about how it would be great to eventually become the general manager of a company. That was our ambition level, right?
Of course.
Coming into Sandvik, I came in with the view that I'll give it a few years. But it was a very, very rewarding experience within Sandvik, because in those early years, we got a lot of responsibility, a lot of decision-making power thrown on our shoulders. Being that it was a new division starting, we had to work with a lot of people from Sweden, from the head office. So it made us, and I say us because there are a few of us then, mature very early at a very young age. And maybe that's when you start thinking, okay, we could go on to achieve something beyond what we had thought possible during our college days. But to answer your question of whether there was a conscious decision at some point to become a CEO, yeah, probably in my mid-30s, still with Sandvik, but I had moved on to UK. I had done a global marketing manager's role. I had had a chance to interact with a lot of global players within the company and outside. And I started to think, yeah, it could be possible for me to eventually become a CEO. So I'd set myself a limit of 40 years. That before the age of 40, I want to become a CEO.
And you managed to achieve?
Yes, I did manage to achieve that. So that, and then I forgot about it, right? Then I forgot about it. But I guess the only conscious decision or the conscious step I took was at a certain point I said, okay, I need to equip myself with some more management or leadership skills.
Correct.
So I actively chose to go and pursue an MBA, an executive MBA.
From the University of Warwick? From
the University of Warwick. And it was a funny story because Sandvik was a great company. They used to send me on trainings every year, very good trainings. I've been to the US, I've been to Switzerland, IMD, Duke School. The third time they came and offered me a training, I said, I've done these. So why don't you do this? Why don't you sponsor my MBA?
Okay.
And I built a business case. I took it to my boss. I said, you're going to spend so and so on my training. You can spend just a little more. I will go and do an MBA. I will promise that I don't let my work fall. And both of us will benefit.
Of course.
Yeah. And if you don't, then yes, I will go on your training, but probably in a couple of years I'll move on.
Correct.
So it was a kind of win-win situation. And the boss at that time agreed, and I really, really enjoyed that experience of doing the MBA.
And I'm sure that's held you in good stead throughout your career because you focused on change management and you focused on other leadership qualities that are so important.
Exactly. Yeah. It was a great time in my life. Great in all ways, you know. So one, the learning was tremendous. And I was working, and alongside I was doing the MBA. So every 6 weeks, after every 6 weeks, I used to be in college for 1 week.
That must have been tough.
Yeah, it was tough. And in those 6 weeks, I had a global job, so I was traveling all over. But I could take my work problems into my MBA class, debate, discuss with the professors, with my peers, and learn out of it. Absolutely. And vice versa. Bring my theories which I was learning and see how they were applied in the work. The company was small enough and well-rounded to be able to apply all the management theories.
And open enough to your suggestions as
and
well.
And open enough, yeah, that you can't discount. So from a life, private life perspective, it was tough.
I'm sure.
It was tough because, like I said, I used to stay in college for 1 week, come back home,
correct,
catch up on work, travel all over the world, and I had young kids then. So I must give full credit to my wife at that time, because we were also in a foreign land, right? We didn't have any relatives around, any support systems. So she managed to take care of the kids in the home and make sure that that didn't get in the way of me focusing on all I was doing.
No, and I'm glad you brought up the family support that you had along the way, because a lot of young entrepreneurs or founders starting out think that you need to choose one or the other. Could you talk maybe a little bit more about how you got into running and what it's taught you?
Yeah. So running, I went into to remain healthy.
Okay.
I realized around mid-30s, I had a job which was requiring me to travel a lot. I enjoy being social, so I used to be out late with friends, having a few drinks, not exercising so much. And at that point, I realized that if I don't change my lifestyle, I could end up not being very healthy at old age. And in my family, we have a history of heart disease. So I got a wake-up call at that time and decided what to do. And running was the easy one because you can do it anywhere.
Correct.
And that's what I do. Whenever I'm traveling, I just carry my running shoes and I can run out on the street anywhere. I used to do it in Europe and other places, but I do it in India as well.
Okay.
So any city I go to. Then as I started getting into longer and longer distances, I started participating in races. And then a different aspect kicks in. Now it's no longer about just being fit and healthy. It's almost like meditation for me. So when I go on these long runs, especially above 5-6 kilometers when you're running at 30-40 minutes. That's actually the only time I'm with myself, right? Most of the times I'm talking to people, or I'm watching TV, or I'm on your phone.
Of course.
You don't get time to just think and reflect.
That's your me time.
Yeah, so when I'm running the 40-50 minutes, I can sort out a lot of things in my head, be it what I want to do with my life, how I would like to support my kids, or business problems. So typically when we have a big presentation or a big workshop at work coming on, I make sure that I take a run in the morning, because it helps me sort out things in my mind.
That's amazing.
So that's what kept me going, and that's what kept me going into longer and longer distances. And then at some point, this aspect of a challenge kicked in. And you kind of tend to link your personal challenge with your business challenge.
True.
Because we talked about how I thought I wanted to become a CEO.
Correct.
But then some points you start to think, do I really have it in me to become a CEO? Will I get the opportunities? You know, those kind of questions do come up. And typically they came up when I was running. So I started to challenge myself in my runs. So I used to run 3 kilometers. Can I get up to 5? Can I get up to 10? Eventually saying that I need to do a marathon before I turn 42. I put that challenge out there when I was about 36, 37. And that I find is very similar to how you can approach your career, or even specific phases or projects within the company. You know, you set up a vision.
Absolutely.
It has to be a challenging, inspiring vision, but at the same time achievable. It cannot be completely off the charts. And then you figure out, to get to that vision, what are the steps you're going to need to take, what are the things you need to do, and what kind of milestones you need to set up for yourself. So I take long distance running as a metaphor for leadership roles within companies.
Absolutely.
And to be successful in that, I needed to ensure I see through my challenge, because it's very easy to give up, or rather there's a lot of temptation or a lot of circumstances which will make you give up in your run.
Distractions.
Yeah, you know, 42 kilometers, running 42 kilometers is not child's play. In your training, which I did for the final 6 months, there were many occasions when I said, do I really need to do it? My parents were saying, you're above 40 now, are you sure you want to put your body through this? Or you have to give up your parties in the evening to get up in the morning. So it's very tempting to say, I don't need to run the 42. 21 is not that bad, right? I mean, 21 is a great achievement. But to keep going. And then that's similar in a business context. You set up a goal, but there will be headwinds. There will be situations changing internally, externally within your company. And you might be forced to say, do I need to go for that? Or is it okay to adjust your ambitions? But I have used the running metaphor to keep the energy, to keep the motivation of myself and my team to achieve the final ambitions even in the business goals.
No, and I think it's a great comparison as well, because a lot of the hard work, even for a marathon, like you rightly said, begins even before you start running it.
Yeah.